Hi folks, welcome to your latest planning outlook. This updated on Tuesday the 1st of December. It's the start of meteorological winter and it's all looking rather promising as we go into the next week to 10 days because sustained cold patterns are in the forecast. The mountains generally staying sub-zero throughout, the Scottish Munros at the very least. The lower summits, bit of freeze and thaw will go on, but often at or below freezing point. And there are likely to be some widespread snowfalls. As low pressure circulates around as we head into this weekend, you'll be rather unlucky if your mountain area doesn't see a covering of snow. The wind flow prevailing into an east or northeasterly as we go forwards. Now the general message is fairly straightforward, but the detail is going to be quite awkward as we go onwards more than a few days ahead in the forecast. Let's try and set the scene for temperature first of all. This chart is the 850 millibar level. With cold air and low pressure, that's down at around 1200 to 1300 metres, so it really does tell the tale for the temperatures on those higher Scottish tops. And this is the situation by the end of Wednesday, and by that point we're down to around -6 on Ben Nevis summit, for example. Freezing level then down to 400 to 600 metres pretty widely across Britain, even lower across a good part of the Highlands as we go through the night. A very cold day on the way into Thursday. Summit temperatures in the Highlands -6 or 7 across the very highest tops, and sub-zero really from lower slopes upwards. Freezing level across England and Wales nearer to around 600 metres. Overnight frost, though, in the valleys and the glens may well stay in place right the way into the daytime out of sunshine. Now, slight variations in just where the air circulates around as we end the week brings a slight lift of temperature and freezing level, just as we drag some air around from the southeast for a while, but most of the higher mountains very likely stay near or below freezing point right the way through. Onwards into the weekend and beyond, that the airflow then by this stage is more of an east or northeasterly. Those cold temperatures stay around. The very lowest values across the higher mountains may have just come upwards slightly, so you're nearer -3, -4 by this stage, but still sustained freezing conditions. Any clear nights in the valleys and the glens, some very low temperatures possible at the lower levels. This is even into the early and middle stage of next week, and the suggestion that sub-zero temperatures are very much here to stay. The short-term snowfall accumulation looking something like this through Wednesday into Thursday, and snowfall accumulating most across the western mountains in Scotland. This model chart has got a reasonable handle on things, but do bear in mind it's quite a coarse resolution. It's not got the absolute detail of topography of the mountains, so you can add a little bit really in reality in terms of what the mountains will take. But nevertheless, it's picking up 10 to 15 centimetres of lying snow across the northwest Highlands by this stage. Bits and pieces showing up elsewhere across Wales into the lakes and the Pennines and the southern uplands too. As we head onwards into Friday, although there is difficulty with detail, it does at least show the scope for some lying snow right the way across central and even southern parts of England on high ground. Here's the synoptic charts for the next few days. This is for Wednesday, the first push of cold air, then behind this cold front sinking southeastwards during the day. Some bursts of rain on that for a while, that clearing from the lakes and the Pennines and across Wales as time goes on. And the colder air that's arriving then is with showers rattling their way in off the Atlantic towards western mountains in Scotland, and some getting well inland to the central and eastern Highlands as well. Some hail mixed in, snow falling to lower slopes, and the risk of an isolated rumble of thunder possible mainly toward the west coast. The detail gets increasingly difficult as we go day on day, so we'll treat things a little bit cautiously. For Thursday, the general zone of low pressure is beginning to sink southwards and open out a little bit across Scotland. The view of some further snow showers and some hail mixed in, typically focused around western coastal fringes, more toward the eastern side of the Highlands. Chances are you're in for a largely dry day with some sunshine, and we may well see the wind drop out quite markedly across northern Scotland as the centre of the low just moves in. Some showers around Irish sea coast, snow and some hail in those, and maybe something a bit more organised moving into Wales. Just depends where this frontal system to the south does drift to. Some of that might even get toward the Peak District. Rain at the very lowest levels, but some snow across the hills. Very complicated indeed as we go onwards to Friday and the weekend. The centre of low pressure continues to rotate around and almost coming back on itself basically across the North Sea, and that's the next zone of precipitation that we're really watching just what that does as it comes back into Scotland from the east as we go through Friday daytime. The potential at least for some sustained snowfall across the eastern half of the Highlands by this stage, and that might even rotate further westwards as well. Uncertainty about the extent of any snow across the Pennines depends just what happens to the centre of the low. Some showers affecting Wales here might be coming in on more of a northwesterly wind, whilst the wind flow turns east or northeasterly across the Highlands, and the risk of that strengthening to gale force just depends how that centre of low pressure does behave. Away from the zones of precipitation, you could find a day which gives largely sunny skies, and best chance for that, I suggest, is around the western side of the Highlands and the Lake District for the best of sunshine for Friday. Very tricky with detail into the weekend. The general view that low pressure will be centred toward the south and the prevailing wind flow is a chilly east or northeasterly, and that's more or less about all we can get. The detail is open to much question in terms of where the fronts have rotated to, but expect zones of precipitation circling around that low. Mostly snow across the higher mountains. It might just be that slightly milder air has been drawn in around that warm sector across Scotland at lower levels, so maybe rain or sleet typically lower down, but I would suggest the higher mountains stay cold enough for most of that to be snow. And across England and Wales it might be that milder air never quite gets in, so that snow level in places could come down to some lower slopes still. Keep a close eye on the forecast because much could chop and change as we go through the days ahead, just where those areas of precipitation continue to circulate. That's a suggestion at least for Sunday, and it maintains low pressure nearby. It maintains a chilly east or northeasterly wind, with the precipitation focused more across eastern mountains and perhaps the far north of Scotland as well. So can we get anything out of next week's forecast? Well, the suggestion that another little area of low pressure might well spin in off the Atlantic, but tracking well to the south, so it doesn't really bring any genuinely mild air, particularly across the northern half of Britain. It might produce some further snowfalls, depending on just where that low pressure does go. But it seems to follow the same path as to where we've just been, in that the low ends up well to the south, the airflow is more of an east by northeasterly, and high pressure lies somewhere north of Britain. And that's just a good recipe for keeping cold air in place, and it stops any genuinely milder air coming back in off the Atlantic. And that's more or less the suggestion as we go onwards even towards the middle of the month. So the first half of December shows most signals favouring chilly or cold patterns being staying around with us. High pressure focused around Scandinavia, high pressure focused over the North Atlantic south of Greenland, and lower pressure focused near or to the south of us. So just keeping us in that general chilly pattern and a lack of west or southwesterly winds. We'll keep a close eye on all those details as we go forward, so stay up to date with us throughout. Thanks for watching this video today. Bye for now.